How's it going, Charger fans? Welcome back to another weekly injury update with Jamieson O'Marr. That's me at Chargers Medical on Twitter. Thanks for tuning in. I apologize for missing last week. I was finishing up some rotations, but those are behind me now. So hopefully I have a little bit more time to contribute to the show over the coming months, which I'm very much looking forward to. And unfortunately, a lot of things happened over the last week that we'll have to discuss. So, it's a fairly busy show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. The one thing that I won't spend an extended amount of time on, unfortunately, is Mike Williams, but I do just want to start out with the unfortunate update that he did suffer that ACL tear on his left knee, and that will put him out for the rest of the season. It remains to be seen where that will take him in the future. I fully expect that he will recover from this and return to full action, likely by the start of training camp, certainly by the start of next season. I understand there's a lot of contract issues and numbers that need to be worked out and things like that, but that's for the future. I just want to say that as a player, he's been an incredible person to watch. By all accounts, he is a grade A guy in the locker room and with his fans and with his, so I just want to say our hearts go out with him. We wish him the best of luck with his recovery. And I fully expect him to be back playing in the NFL next year at a high level, just like we've seen him play over the last, 5 or 6 years that he's been with the Chargers. So I won't spend an extended period of time talking about that, unfortunately, because there's a lot to go through this week. So these are the points that I do want to spend a little bit more time on. Talk a little bit about the Austin Ekeler updates with his high ankle sprain, dive a little bit deeper into that, discuss the more recent placement of Corey Linsley on IR. We'll talk a little bit about what that unspecified heart issue could potentially mean, but this is all very recent development. There's really not a lot of information out there, so just want to preface that we won't have a ton to kind of latch onto, but we will hopefully add a little bit more clarity to that, and then talk a little bit about J.C. Jackson, specifically his recovery, and then Derwin James's hamstring injury as well. And then there's quite an extensive other report. So I'll do a quick, run through at the end there as well, just to hit any players I don't specifically mention here, but there's a lot that we got to cover today. So let's get into it. So starting off with Austin Ekeler and his high ankle sprain. So initially when I was discussing this a couple of weeks ago, we thought it was a low ankle sprain, and specifically because a lot of the reporting was that he was, itching to play, that this was not a high ankle sprain. It was later came out that it was actually a high ankle sprain, which is a different injury. And if you remember the video from before, rather than an injury to some of the ankle ligaments lower down in the ankle that provide stability, a high ankle sprain actually affects the ankle syndesmosis, so the ligaments that hold the fibula and the tibia together. And those injuries, are more important or more significant because that actually affects ankle stability. And it is indeed what he suffers. So instead of a 1 to 2 week absence, those injuries tend to be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the severity. And again, this can be a scale because it really depends on what ligaments are injured and the severity of those injuries as well. The optimistic outlook on this is he was able to return to practice this week. He is listed as doubtful against the Cowboys, so I he's listed as doubtful to play this week against the Raiders, and there is this bye week coming up. He put out to the audience, to the fan base, that if he was ready to play, he's ready to play, and he'll play against the Raiders this week. It's reassuring that he's able to have that straight line speed he talked about. He's able to move in a single direction, a single plane with kind of his normal ability. It's the change of direction that's taking more time to come back, and which is completely expected with his recovery process. So he's listed as doubtful against the Raiders. I do not expect him to play. And even if he thinks that that irrespective of the bye week that he would have play if he's able to, the fact that bye week exists gives, I think, myself, probably the medical professionals for the Chargers, probably the team, a little bit of more confidence of we would rather have Ekeler back at full strength against the Cowboys than put him out there at something less than full strength, potentially put him at a higher risk of injury. And even with a bye week, you don't want to lose your star player for any more time. So just a little bit more explanation of high ankle sprain injuries. I do expect him to be back relatively soon, and we'll see him suited up against the Cowboys. I'm fairly certain of that. All right, now to Corey Linsley. So I just wanted a little bit of history of kind of, what this was, and there's not a whole lot of information out there, but on 9/27, which is Wednesday, he was listed with an illness on the practice report. Now, this is, not uncommon. COVID's going around, flu's going around, like, players get sick. It's just, everyone gets sick. But it came out today that he was placed on injured reserve with a non-emergent heart-related medical issue. And that could be a number of things. And I don't want to speculate here. I just do want to send out, our best wishes to him, his wife, and his family. It sounds like he's getting really good medical care. He's working with the Chargers doctors. I'm sure he's working with other physicians as well to figure out this process, figure out what's going on. It could be something related to an illness. It's not, sometimes people will get sick, and, viral illnesses or infections in the heart can cause, arrhythmias, can cause a number of things. And it could be related to that. It could be something completely different. And there's a whole spectrum there. And so until we get more information, we really don't know the extent of this or what it will mean for his future, playing career or even this season with the Chargers. But what we do know is that he's on IR, so we won't see him for 4 weeks, and the bye week doesn't count for that. So the earliest we could potentially see him return would be, I believe, week 8 or week 9. So we'll keep an eye out. I'm sure we'll have more information about, how he's doing. With that, it sounds like, again, non-emergent, so he's not in any life-threatening issues at the moment, which is, reassuring to hear. But we wish him the best, and hopefully he gets, all the help and care that he needs, which I'm sure he will. So that's all we have. Not a lot of information, so stay tuned for more in future weeks once we get that information out in the public. I threw this one in there because there's a lot going on about JC Jackson right now. There's a lot in the fan base, a lot of discussions about the quality of the player. There's a lot of discourse in the whole NFL about the fact that he was a healthy scratch last week. And I do want to, put the quotations around that healthy mark. He's recovering from a serious knee injury, and I do want to put the focus on that aspect here. Obviously, there's a whole lot of other things going on that could potentially be contributing to why he was a healthy scratch. But in terms of his knee injury, he's doing remarkably well. And he was returned to, a game level speed in week 1. And while he did look like he was getting kind of that explosiveness back, he was able to play at a remarkable level. I mean, he was playing an NFL game against some of the fastest receivers, and it wasn't a pretty game by any means, but he was able to at least keep up with the players on certain plays. He was able to make that one interception in week 1, which is remarkable given the type of and significance of the injury that he sustained. Again, like 10, 15 years ago, that is a career-ending injury. He would not be anywhere close to where he is now. So the fact that he is playing again in the NFL at, a reasonably high level is a testament to his recovery. He was a healthy scratch last week, and I think that has as much to do with kind of the ramping up of the knee injury. It's not linear. Some weeks will be better than others, but and he said himself that he was not 100%, and I believe him. He's probably somewhere in that 80-90% range, and as he gets more comfortable, as he learns that he's like, hey, I can play this and I can explode on that knee and it feels the same. That just takes game time. It takes weeks for that soft tissue and all those muscles to kind of relearn and retrain your brain that they can trust that knee. So this is a process, I think, is what I'm trying to emphasize here. There's obviously other things going on within the organization and with him and things like that. And, I have full kind of trust that those will get worked out one way or the other. And that, he will be either playing or, the Chargers will have discussions with him, and like that stuff will get worked off on the side. But in terms of his knee, this is a process. He's moving along in the process. And again, he's ahead of schedule. So anything that he's able to produce on the field is something that we should be remarkably thankful for, and thankful for his recovery. And we wish him the best, hopefully moving forward in the next couple of weeks as he gets more and more comfortable with that. So we'll see. He is expected to play this week against the Raiders. He will be active, according to Brandon Staley. He kind of has to be. There's a lot of secondary attrition right now, so we need bodies. We need experienced bodies. So we'll see how the game goes, and we'll see how confident and explosive he looks, and hopefully it keeps getting better and better week to week. But something that we will keep an eye on as we go forward. And then finally, hamstring injuries. I'm not going to beat this one to death, as we've discussed them almost every show here. They're extremely common in the NFL. Derwin James did suffer this injury in the third quarter against the Vikings. He's doubtful to play in week 4. I highly expect that he will sit that week. The average player, again, misses between 2 and 3 games. Thankfully, there is that bye week. So if he misses this week, he has the bye week to recover. I think there is a more reasonable chance that we do see him against the Cowboys in some capacity. He will be more needed for that game, certainly, than he will against the Raiders. So we wish him the best for that recovery timeline. And we'll have more of an idea again when that week 5 or week 6 practice report comes out on Wednesday and Thursday to see how active he is. If he's feeling good and he'll have, like, again, an extended period of time to get treatment. We'll see how he responds to that treatment, and then we can make a determination on whether he's going to be playing in that game against the Cowboys and at what level he will be able to play. All right, finally, we're here at the end. This is a big injury report, which, it is intimidating. It's something that, but I do want to walk you through it and say some of these things are actually good signs. So we'll start with the good. Eric Kendricks is expected to play. He has no injury designation going into this week, which is a good boon for the defense, especially in the run stop department. We have another experienced linebacker in there, and then also on the defense, things to be watching out for is Alohi Gelman's injury. And we've already discussed that Derwin James will likely not play this week. Alohi Gelman is questionable, and Dean Leonard is also doubtful. So. And I do not expect him to play again with a hamstring injury. So the safety and cornerback depth of the Chargers is being tested right now. We will see. JT Woods is also out. So that is a significant kind of blow to the secondary. A secondary that's had its problems in the first 3 weeks of the season. We will see practice squad players elevated for this game. The exact players is to be determined. So we'll see what kind of that elevation takes place on Sunday. But it will be sort of a hodgepodge group. Expect Michael Davis, expect Asante Samuel out there on the corners, and we will have Jasir in the slot more than likely, and then some mixture. Hopefully, Alohi's able to go and provide some veteran depth there in the safety realm, but we will have kind of untested players over the top, so that'll be something to keep an eye out come game time. Rashawn Slater's injury, it seems like it was more of a bump and bruise. Same thing with Keenan Allen's injury, more of a bump and bruise. Those players are no injury designation going in, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. Joey Bosa is also sort of status quo. He's had this hamstring injury. The toe injury is new, but they've been sort of, for whatever reason, slow rolling his recovery and slow rolling his snaps, where he's not playing kind of a full complement, but to his credit, to Thule's credit, perhaps more importantly, it seemed to work with him. They'll bring him in on the specialty third round pass rush reps, and he's able to provide full effort and do some really cool rotations and stunts along the defensive line, and it's working for the team. So hopefully he gets through this week. I do expect him to play at least some semblance of a snaps. He's been doing that for the last couple of weeks. And we'll see if that'll be enough of a pass rush for the Chargers this week. And those are the main ones. So at Corey, we touched on Kenneth Murray had this groin injury. It seems to be more of a bump and bruise. He's expected to wear the green dot, even though Kendricks is back this week. So I do expect him to play. And Ekeler, we also discussed, is doubtful. On the Raiders side of the ball, a lot of questionable. From what I was able to report, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is sort of the big issue here. He was still in the concussion protocol as of today. He will have to clear that by tomorrow at the latest, which means, again, we've discussed this in previous episodes, but there's a 5-stage return to play. He has to pass every one of those stages. It's something that players can do within a week, but it's not common to do it within a week. And the fact that he hasn't passed it as of Friday today is indicative that, in all likelihood, we probably will not see him play, which means it'll probably be Brian Hoyer leading the Raiders out this weekend on Sunday, but there's still a chance. So something to be mindful of. The Chargers are preparing for multiple quarterbacks this week. Max Crosby, Nate Hobbs, Roderick Cheemer, and then their defensive end, Malcolm Kuntz, are all questionable with various knee and soft tissue injuries. From what I was able to gather, I think most of those players are expected to suit up in some capacity. So the more important ones is just keep an eye on Jimmy Garoppolo and whether that will play, because that'll have a reasonable impact on the Chargers' defensive scheming and game planning as we move forward. And that's all I have for you, week 4. So it was quite a week, unfortunately. The Chargers did get their first win against the Vikings, and I think we're all excited about that. Picked up some injuries. Unfortunately, lost Mike Williams for the season. Our heart goes out to him. We have questionable heart issues with Corey Linsley. We'll have to keep an eye on that situation as it develops over the course of the week. But the kind of diamond in the rough of all of this is that even though there's an extensive injury report, the Chargers do get a bye week after this. So that early bye week is often kind of looked down upon. Players tend to want that later in the season after kind of the wear and tear of the season comes up. But at least for the Chargers this year, that bye week early in the season is actually looking like it might do some benefit, especially if some of the expected starters are going to have to miss some more time. We potentially get Jalen Guyton back after that, Otito Ogbonnia as well, some more reinforcements from players that are on the PUP list as well. So all that can develop through that bye week that can get them integrated into the team, and we'll see kind of what Chargers team we have rolling out against week 6. So that's all from me. Hopefully you learned something today. It was a lot to go over. But if you have any questions that I didn't cover, leave them in the comment section. I'm happy to answer questions there. Or you can message me on Twitter at Chargers Medical. I'm always happy to answer any injury-related questions to the Chargers. But if you have any other ones that come up across the NFL, I'm also happy to take a look if you send it my way. So it's been a pleasure. Bolt up, guys, and let's go and beat the Raiders this week.